Okay guys, so we're finally at the rendering stage, and this process is going to be pretty repetitive for each shot. So I'm going to do with you like a first shot, for example, and all the rest is going to be a speed up. So because it's quite the same all the time. So what I did, I also loaded my hands model, which will be in project files in this generic aiming stance. So this one is going to be used for an FPS view. And I also have one round just for some extra purposes. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is just delete those magazines. I don't need those. And basically I have two models right here, and I will hide this one for now. So whenever I do rendering, I tend to store each shot in a folder, so that's much easier to control. So when you wanna, for example, return to like your shot in Photoshop, you want to redo something, you can go back into Marmoset and find your folder which corresponds to like certain shot and remake it. And so okay, let's select our camera and let's adjust post effects. For rendering, I tend to use more sharpness, not too much, but not too little, so that the tiny details become more crisp and good looking. Also, I like to use grain. You can actually add that on the stage of the Photoshop, but I tend to use it right now because it just makes the shot more nice looking while you try to render something. What else? Have a bit more contrast, as you can see here. You can set it like this, for example. And also, I usually use chromatic aberration right here at about this value, but I tend to use this effect, but not in Marmoset. You can like use it for previewing in the Marmoset, but there's not much control over it, so I just add this effect later in Photoshop. So I turn it off. Also, I can use depth of field for certain shots. I'm not using it too often, but I can do that. Well, as for general setup on post effects in Marmoset, this is pretty much it. Right now I can see that there's too much of grain. Let's tone it down. Yeah, like that. And now let's duplicate our camera. Let's call it shot 1, and I have this group with all the assets, and let's drop this camera into this group. So now you can select between the cameras, right? Okay, this is shot 1. Let's call this group shot 1. As you can see, I have the sky skylight again at this shot, so make sure you have that. However, I think you can leave it there because it turns on and off on each individual shot, but that's just a messy thing with that sky. I still cannot figure it out the way it works properly. Okay, so I tend to store my lights under the sky. just for previewing, when you shift drag, you can rotate your lighting. But for rendering, I guess I can move it up for now. So let's turn off all kinds of light, all the sources of light. So for lighting a scene, I usually use this classic setup of 3 lights, which are fill light, key light, and rim light. Like, it's the basic thing that works all the time. So for fill light, I usually use the skylight, which is at this moment this preset called Smashed Windows. There are a few more. Garage is by default, but it's too green for me. Also, which one is not bad? Indoor fluorescent, also not bad, but not in all cases. Sometimes it might look cool, sometimes it might not. Let's try it out. So I usually set it to really dim light because it's a fill light. It just need to fill the blackness of the scene. And then I just can add key light like this one. Key light means like a straight source of light that highlights the main part of the object that is in the scene. For example, the gun. And the rim light is the source of light that is behind the object, for example, like this, and creates a nice rim, shining rim over here, so you can see that bounces off your object. So it might be like here, you can see this nice highlighting area like that. So basically this is like the classic setup of lights. So we have fill light. You can see when I turn it off, it turns those parts that are not under any kind of source of light, they just turn black. That's too bad. I mean, like, I don't use this kind of method, so I always tend to have any kind of skylight because it creates like soft light for everything. Then we have key light that highlights the main part of the gun, and rim light. So based on these 3 main parts, I do the rest. So the rest may be like a lot of different light sources. I might like to have a special highlight on a certain area of the gun, and this process is individual for every shot. So right now what I'm going to do is just pick some more lights. First of all, I'll find a perfect angle for the shot. For pistols, I like to use 2 assets at the same time in the scene. So let's go and then unhide this guy and put it somewhere right here so that I could see both of these guys right there. Let's form a shot with the camera. Another cool thing, you can go to camera and set save frame. This will have your preview of the final image, because as you can see there's like a tiny space over here, so you might like do a big close-up and some part of it might be gone because of this gap. So turn on the save frame to make sure that you know your frame resolution. So first things first, I'm going to find like the right angle for this, for example like this. So then I freeze the camera, this little lock over there. Now you can't move it. I try to click something on the screen with Alt, I cannot move it. In this manner I have my scene set up, and based on this camera position I will adjust any kinds of light. So to make the adjustments, I go to my main camera, and now I have my camera right there. I have my sources of light, and I can edit those sources of light the way I want it. Okay, so this part of like presentation of your asset is extremely important, because with bad rendering you can totally destroy the work you did on the texturing, and at the same time you can improve your like the general look of your asset with nice lighting. So almost all the times it happens that I do renders for my completed works and I scrap 1 or 2 shots that I don't like because of the setup of the scene. So it is really important part, and I pay a lot of attention to this. So actually let's go on. The background I tend to use like this color because I will edit later in Photoshop. I don't like it. I don't like to work with my rendering with the background. So right now I think I kind of like this preset of the skylight. Let's just go back and switch to smashed windows to see if I like it more. Well, I guess, yeah, I guess I like this one more, because this one gives a little bit more bluish color, and it's not like perfectly fitting with the color palette of the gun, which is like warm colors. You can see I switched to this preset, which has more yellowish colors, and how this is now much better looking with those yellowish colors reflecting. So keep this in mind. This also can make a difference. But still, I think I will go with this indoor fluorescence. It is kind of a neutral color, so just gray and white. So I think I'll go with this one for now. I might change my mind later. So okay, so let's check out the angle on the first camera like this. Okay, so what I want to do now is just change the position of the key light, because I can see the highlight on this guy but not on this. And also I want to turn down the brightness of the skylight and turn on the brightness of the key light like this. Let's check it out. Okay, so sometimes it's better for the key light not to go straight into the camera. I mean on the highlights, when the light beams are reflecting off the metal surface into the camera. It is not the best, like here you can see like straight reflection. I tend not to have that like that much. I like this kind of look, and this is not the straight light reflection, so that your metal can look a bit more flat. So you can see I'm moving the light source down. Yep, I have the straight reflection right there. I don't want it. Let's move it back up, or even lower. No, back up. Yeah, now it looks better. Let's move it a bit more towards the camera. I wish they had in Marmoset like a split screen with two cameras, but they don't have it for now. You can turn in on and off your light source to see how does it look like. So okay, I like the lights on this guy, but still there are no lights on this guy. I guess you can duplicate your light source and just adjust for the second guy. For example, like that. Yeah, now you see all the action is going on the second guy. And actually this light source is not affecting too much the first guy, so I think I'll leave it. So this is where the tinkering starts with the light sources, because I actually have two key lights for now. So that's okay. I think I can turn down the brightness just a bit. Like this. And I think I want to zoom in just a bit. Like that. Pay attention to the composition of your shot. Try to make it symmetrical, like from this corner to this, so you have like balanced weight of your shot. So if you have some information here, you might have some information over here. Don't leave like blank spots. Make your composition look nice. Sometimes you can also rotate this guy, for example, in order to have better composition, but I don't think it's the case just now. Come on. Somehow it is not Control Z. Cool. Okay. Like that, and 0 here. And move it up. Move it up even more. Like so. So let's block the camera. Let's go back to main camera. And for a non-FPS view as well, I like to have like this really portrait-like field of view. I think the more distortion you have, the camera like skew of perspective. I don't like this effect that much. So let's check out this shot again. How about we change the color of this light source for just a bit warmer one. Something like that. Also, another tip is to increase the width of your light source, so the shadows would not look that sharp. So let's go to this guy here and increase the width, and you can see how the highlights on the metal material differ from each of the input on the light. So you can pick the one you like more. For example, like this. Okay, let's let's work on the rim light. Let's increase the intensity of this light source. Something like this. You can see like not much of happening right there, but there can be a really nice and good looking rim light. So also I think I can increase the distance of this guy. Yeah, you can see the change of the, however, I'm not sure. Yeah, you can see that sharp shadow there. Increase this thing. Now you can see the blurred shadow, which is a bit more, is better looking, because I don't like sharp shadows. Those are not your friends. Okay, let's keep it like this. And let's add another source of light, which is going to be another rim light, basically. That will reflect light over the top of this guy here. So you see that, something like that. I don't want to be too crazy like this. That's too much. Yeah. Another trick I like to do is just to align your main camera somewhat like this camera, and then just zoom out so that you can actually control the light sources. Let's turn down the brightness. And now you can see that nice highlight over there. Let's move it somewhere. Also, you can have length of your light source like this. However, I don't quite like it that much because it diffuses the light really much and just lets everything up. If that's what you like and want, that's the thing. But however, I think it's quite nice looking here. Let's up. Okay, so let's delete all the light sources that I don't need for now. And you can actually name those lights, but I don't like it, it's too long. So I can duplicate this guy and turn down the length so that now I have this nice highlight and overall lit right there. And let's still find the perfect position for this. For example, like this. Okay, so what I'm thinking now is I have quite more information right there from the top side. I think I could add some source of light on the top right there so that you could see more of that. Not that strong, of course. Yeah, see, that makes much more sense because I can actually make it long, like so, and see if that makes sense. No, I don't like it. Let's keep it down on the length. Keep it like this. Yeah, you can see that now we see on the highlight those guys, that action that is happening. That's kind of cool. I lost it. Where is this guy? Yeah, There it is. Well, I'm not sure about that. Okay, let's do some highlight on the frame. Let's have our key light, which is this. Duplicate it and move a bit further to the frame. I want to have at least some kind of reflections on the frame. It's quite unglossy, but I want to bring something out. Turn down the brightness. That's too much, obviously, because there is some kind of information going on the plastic, the polymer part. Yeah, now we can see those glossy stuff. Turn down brightness. Well, I think I'm pretty close to that first shot. I want to turn that rim light even more, like so. You can see this part here when I move the light, how much this thing like changes. At this position, all of the details are lost in here, but when you move it further and there's no like straight reflection, you can see that all the action goes back, and that's kind of good. But I'm still trying to find the perfect position to represent the plastic, because I have some like gloss information over there on the plastic. Okay, let's duplicate this light source and move it somewhere here. Maybe I can do with this guy the same trick with the plastic reflections. And you can see I can actually highlight some of the metal if I want, but actually I don't. Let's search for that spot on the plastic. Well, okay, so I guess for the first shot it's quite good. Let's test it out. So let's do a test render. So go into capture settings. Let's set the highest resolution, this one. Make sure you have this MIP correction on, which disables MIP mapping of your textures. This is really important. Sampling you can turn, well, for test bakes 25 is okay. Turn on transparency. And okay, now let's capture image. You can click here or just F11. I think it won't take too long because the sampling is not that high. It still takes some time. Okay, we're done. And I have my like preset for renders in Photoshop. Let's open the screenshot, Control A, Control C, and let's paste it right here. Center it. So as you can see, it's much brighter here because I have my brightness contrast like adjustment layer in Photoshop. You can see my contrast is really high, brightness a bit higher, and most of the times this looks good and serves its purpose. So let's now zoom in and see if we like all the details that I see. So to my taste, this is kind of too sharp and oversaturated. So, and you can see that kind of stuff going on. That's because of the width of the light source, but that's okay, that can be fixed. So at this point I kind of really like it. So you can see I have this wide range of backgrounds, and this is basically how I do all of those. I just turn on a couple of those. These are just screenshots from Marmoset, and each of them have this low % of opacity. So I blend them with each other and have this kind of blurry result. So since I have this bright color, I want to add another adjustment layer, which is going to be hue and saturation. And let's desaturate it just a bit because it's kind of too saturated. I want to keep the brightness, but let's desaturate it just a bit. Like so. That's too much, I guess. Let's bring it back just a bit. Yeah, like this. So let's hide the background. Like so. So this looks quite not bad actually. You can now zoom in and check all the stuff which is going on and see what's good and what's not. So I kind of really like the details on the plastic. I was afraid that it's not going to look proper, but I really kind of like it. The plastic looks kind of cool. Alright, and so this is pretty much the first shot. It's pretty successful to my mind. What I want to do now is just try the same shot but with less sharpness. I'll hide this guy, go to sharpness, and let's tone it down to 1.0 like that. Hit F11 again. Okay, now let's close this guy and open a second shot. Control A, Control C, paste it in, and what I need to do now is just align it perfectly with each other. Yeah, like that, and you can now switch on and off the layer so that you could see the difference, which is quite handy. And I think I want a result somewhere in the middle. So basically I can unhide this and set opacity to 50%. Now it's exactly in the middle. Or you can add some masks, for example, like add a mask to here and paint out the areas you don't like. That also would be nice. So it's also not really good and handy when you have this shot one and fixed camera, so that even if you do any kind of edits on your textures, you like refresh your textures and you still have the shot, you still have the renders on Photoshop, and you can compare the differences. So at this point, what I think is that I don't like this bright black outline on the letters. It's kind of too unnatural to my mind, and this really contrasty pattern right here, it's too bright versus too dark. I don't quite like that. I think I would change that on the textures. So it's actually quite normal to see the result on the renders in the final image, and then you will have to edit something, because that's the way that's the purpose of your work. Like, this image is your final representation, so you need to make sure that everything is going to look really cool and exactly the way you want it. So because you saw that in Substance it has one like general look, it looks like something, then in Marmoset it looks totally different, and now in Photoshop, when you applied all of your like adjustment layers and all kind of stuff, it turns out to look even more different. So it's quite okay to aim to your final result, and your final result for this project is image. So it's okay to edit that. So let me turn on and off my saturation layer. Well, I guess I will keep it like this for now. So let's save this renders. I think before I do the second shot, I will do the edits on this thing and the pattern, because I think I should do that. So basically this is how the renderings look like. So nothing too complicated or too much of some kind of information. So I will keep this renders preset for you so that you can do quite the same thing. Just use this one. Basically there's not too much. If I turn off all of the adjustment layers that I have, you will see that, and turn on this flat background, you can see that it's actually basically the same look as in Marmoset, but just a couple more effects and adjustment layers makes a huge difference, like brightness, contrast, and desaturation. And on top of that, in the end, when I'll be done with all the shots, I will add some chromatic aberration. And right, and I also have okay, it's a part of the background. Yeah, I have this vignette. I kind of like this image. So, okay, this was like a breakdown of the rendering. So all the rest of the shots I will do in a speed up process, so you still be able to check everything that I did. There's just not going to be too much explanation of that, because it's going to repeat pretty much the same process. So in the end, when I'm done with all the shots, I will do commentary on that and show you every shot, and tell you if there were some like extra tips or something like that. So let's go on to like final images in Photoshop. Okay, so here's a little update on the textures. I had to go back and fix some small parts. So I kept the old layer on purpose. So this guy is the one you were looking at just before this. And I fixed some spots. For example, if I turn this on, you can see this thing becomes darker. Like it was too contrasty to my mind. Also, this thing had too much edge wear, which I think is a bit off. Also, right here, this part is a bit more subtle. This like a crazy black outline, something like that, that's too much. So now it's much better. And this part, because before there was like this obvious edge, which is kind of off. I masked it a bit better, so it's a bit broken and not that obvious. So this was only about the plastic, and the metal is good. I kept everything with the metals. So this is the final textures. This is the final texture, and now I will go and do the rest of the shots in a speed up. Okay, so this is basically the final look of all the renders. So let's go through each shot. So this is shot 1. I was doing it in the very beginning. Shot 2, pretty much similar, just the other side. Shot 3 is two images right here. I created afterwards. I created another project in Photoshop with all the same levels. I mean layers, but vertical, so that when you drop this picture into ArtStation, you can set the scaling of the picture depending on the width, and so you will have this long picture where you can just observe all the details. This works really good. So next I had this shot with the top of the slide and the bottom of the plastic part, so that we could see what's going on in there. Also, I have a couple FPS shots. So this is typical in-game view, the perspective. Okay, so this one is the second one. It's like gun observation or inspecting the gun. And this is pretty much it. So in terms of Marmoset, as you can see, I have each shot in a folder. So for example, I want to go back to shot 3. I unhide shot 3, go to my cameras, go into shot 3. Now you have it. And you have all the stuff going on in here. And if you want to edit this shot, don't forget to turn on the sky, because it turns off. And this is the way you actually edit your shots. So this is really handy and useful method of storing your renders. So whenever you want to edit something or change, you can go back to each of the shots and you can change anything of it. So another thing, for example, this FPS, I have two files for that. For one, for aiming, and for just hip stance of the gun. So here we got FPS 1. Let's find it, FPS 1. And here is it. See, I have two separate folders because the lighting is a bit different on both of these guys, and I had to change that. So this is pretty much it. So this is how the Photoshop scene is set up. The only thing that I might add or consider is chromatic aberration. As I said, this thing isn't, the Marmoset has this thing, but you can add it in Photoshop. Particularly for this project, I don't think that I want this, but I still will show you how this works. So for this purpose, I will duplicate this group, unhide the previous one, and I want to merge group. So I have one layer for these two guys. Now to add your chromatic aberration, also I duplicate this again right there, and on the topmost layer I go to filters, lens correction, custom, and here we have this chromatic aberration. And let's zoom in right here, for example, and you have this 3 sliders. Each of those sets the color. So for example, if I turn on this one, you can see it's red and blue. Let's turn this back to 0. You can turn this one, it's now green and pink, and so on. This one is yellow and blue. So for example, like this result, click OK, Now when you zoom in, you can see that chromatic aberration. The coolness of this effect is basically when you don't see it, but it creates this like cinematic feel to the photo. However, this effect can create those like ugly artifacts on the edge. You can see that. That's why I have this second layer. So what I do in such situations, I just create a mask on the highest level and go to my brushes and just paint the black on the mask in those places where we have those artifacts right there, like this. Now you can see you don't have that. Let's zoom in and double check everything. I don't like it here, so you can just mask it out. Another thing, when you have those like tight patterns, they tend to have this tint. Right here it's green, so also you can mask that out, as well as here and over here, like that. So now you pretty much don't see this. So again, this is a nice thing, but me personally, for this project, I don't think I want this. So I'll delete this, and this is pretty much it. So the final chapter of this tutorial is going to be GIF animation. So like the static pictures are cool and nice looking, but it's even cooler when you have a nice rotating GIF. So I'm going to do this in Marmoset, and in order to do that, let's create a new Marmoset scene. So for this purpose, I'm going to unhide shot 1, go to here, and delete all the rest. I do not need those guys, and I don't need the second guy here. I don't need hands. Okay, let's keep it like this for now. Let's save the scene as XD GIF. I have the scene already. Let's override it. So now let's hide all the light sources except only one. And how this is going to work? Well, as I'm going to upload this to ArtStation, the background of all the pictures in ArtStation are black. So I'm going to create a background that is also black, because everything is set on 10 megabytes size of the GIF of any picture you upload. And 10 megabytes is quite small amount for GIFs, for nice looking like high resolution GIFs, and you have to like face tons of compromises. So first of all, it should not be too long. You should like sacrifice some quality or something in order to make the perfectly balanced GIF that will fit perfectly 10 megabytes and will still look not bad. So the black background is kind of cool effect that in some way destroys the borders of your picture and making look that your gun is floating like on the screen of the site. So you don't see the borders of your picture, and that creates like this illusion that the picture is even bigger. So let's go here, color to black, like that. So for now, I have everything set up, and what I want to do is now establish the camera movement and the movement of the gun. So I'm going to animate camera both with my rotating gun. So first of all, let's go down here on the timeline, and usually from my personal experience, 4 seconds for a GIF is okay. It's not too long. You will still be able to fit in 10 megabytes, though it's not too short, so you will be able to show something. So let's set the timeline to 6 seconds so that I could have a gap between those 4 seconds, like in the front 1 second and on the back another second, so I could like have that spare gap. So let's go to frames, set it to 160, and let's set it a bit more, 180, 190. Yeah, here we go, we have 6 seconds, even more, just a bit more, that's okay. Frames per second is also quite important, so you can keep it 30. 60 frames per second is perfect, but you will not be able to do a 10 megabytes GIF with 60 frames per second. So 30 is okay, you can go into 24. Okay, so now the timeline is set up. Now let's add a turntable. Turntable is basically a thing that makes everything inside of it over here in the hierarchy turn around. So let's put the gun into that turntable, and now if I click play, you can see it rotates, right? But the problem is that it's rotating along this pivot, which is on the front, but I want my pivot in front of the gun. So you can see the pivot of the turntable at the same position. Now you just can place the gun somewhere in the middle of the turntable pivot. Hope you see what I can do. Yeah, somewhere there. Alright, now if you hit play, you can see it rotates along its own axis. Well, not perfectly though. Yeah, you can see the pivot is a bit offset. Yeah, I want to try and place that pivot inside of the gun. Yeah, so that the rotation could look more natural. Okay. Now the gun is rotating in a nice way. You can see that the source of light is still. That is exactly what I need. Also, you can set the spin rate of the turntable. Let's turn it down strongly. So now it rotates pretty slow, like that. Let's go to the start. Okay. So let's open the keyframes. Turntable. Okay, let us not touch this for now. I'll explain a bit later about the keyframes. Let's just adjust the camera in a proper way. Yep. So also I want to rotate the gun somewhat like this. So what I basically want to do is to have my front and back frame the way I want. So for example, I want my GIF to open with this shot and close it with like perfectly aligned facing the camera sideways. So let's turn the speed down just a bit. Okay, and remember that gap so that it can go a bit further than I want, because I will cut it somewhat like this. That's fine. Now I want to make sure that my camera, so I want to make sure that the gun is not breaking the shot. You can see right at this point it goes under the frame, and I don't want to do that. I want to keep it in frame all the time so that you would still see the whole gun. That will create this illusion of the full frame. Okay, like that. So you can hit play and see how this turns out. So this is already not bad, but it's quite a bit boring. I want to do this a bit more interesting. So I want to add a camera animation on top of this. So now we need keyframes. So let's select our camera, go to keyframes, and select transform. Now you see all those lines. Those lines basically correspond to like coordinates of like translation, like it's moving, rotation along 3 axes, and scale. So basically when you select everything, you can see each string for each transformation. So click transform and place, let's go on the very first frame, and let's face the camera, for example, a bit from above, like that. Okay, now you can click this key icon, which stores this position of the camera. Now you can back all the way down to the last frame and position your camera the way you want. So basically I want it like this. You can also move it, like pan it, like for example this. Now you click that key again, and you can see that those things turns into curves that transition, and like the program automatically builds the way from that first position to the last one. So this is basically basic principles of animation in the digital way. So now you can see that the camera goes down a bit. So this shot looks much more interesting now. All right. So also there are some things that I want to do. So I guess I want to zoom in much more on the first shot. Don't forget, every time you do anything, you just double check and add a keyframe. And on the last shot, I want to zoom out just a bit. Somewhat like this, add a keyframe. So you can see there, the gun breaks the screen. In order to fix that, select your camera, go to the shot where it falls too high, move it downwards, and place a key. Okay, this looks not bad. I guess I want on the end shot the gun to look a bit more straight. So again, go to the camera, and on the last keyframe, go to rotation of the camera and just rotate it like this way. As you can see, I'm not rotating the gun, I'm rotating the camera because it's easier. You can move it, place a key, Now let's see how it looks. Okay, so this looks not bad. Okay, let's save the scene. So another cool thing that you can do, go into camera, and you can go and where is it? Right, lens, field of view. Go to view. You can animate field of view. So, for example, I want it to be. Okay, let's place 2 keyframes at the start and at the beginning. I mean, at the start and at the end. So, like at the start, I think I want to make the field of view a bit more wide-angled, like so. Obviously, I need to zoom in now, like that. You can see how the curve changed. Let's go to transforms and set the keyframe, and now you can see, however, you can see that step like right there. I don't really like it. Now that looks a bit weird. So you know what? I'm going to Control Z all of that if I'll be able. Okay, no? Okay. For this thing I saved, I just load the scene right there. So that was a bad idea. So I guess I'll keep it this way. You can actually experiment and put 24 frames per second and see how it's going to change. When the move is quite slow, you won't be able to see that change. And like high rate of frames can be seen on rapid shots, like something fast changing or something like that. 24 frames is the exact amount of frames that human eye can recognize when something moving slowly. So in this case, this is quite good. Okay, so I guess I'm okay with the motion. The next step is going to be lights. I have my front light, which is quite not bad. I like it at this point. You can see all the stuff going on in here at this point, even on the frame, which is kind of cool. But still, it's too poor. I want to add something more to that. So let's turn on the lights that we already have and see if they are making any sense. No, I don't like this one. You can delete that one. Let's see what this one does. Nothing. Delete it. This one shines from above. No, it does not do anything at all. This one shines from side. Okay, you can see this does not bad job over here. So maybe I'll keep this one. I think I'll turn the color to white for now. Or I don't know, maybe I will. I'm not sure. I'll keep this for now. Yes, rim light, obviously. This is a must-have. But I think I want this thing to be from the side. Now we can see the camera move when you looking at it from another angle, from another camera. Okay, let's move rim light. No, it's too far sideways. Now you cannot see this. I think this is somewhere there. So I think that the camera is moving too dramatically. So I'll go to here and change the angle of the camera. I'll delete this keyframe in the beginning, and I'll move the camera a bit this way, and let's see how it I think the motion is more smooth. Okay, yeah, I like this more. Let's go back to the light sources. So I could have some more illumination from the top. No. So let's go back to the last angles. What if I move this guy a bit more? Yeah, I like this kind of transition from here to there along the way it moves. Still, I don't like this part is not lit at all. Yeah, somewhat like this. rim light is a bit too much. I guess I want to move it more sideways. Or no, more like this. No, I want to make it sideways. Somewhere, for example, like here. Nope. Can't figure out where to put this rim light. Well, basically my GIF will end up at here, 5th second. So start with here. Crank up this guy over here. Yeah, it's kind of too strong. This one, let's, or not, I'm not sure. Okay, so I guess this one is okay. I think I'm kind of satisfied with this. So since this is not going to go through Photoshop filters, so what I want to do now is also crank up the brightness contrast. You can go and just crank up the contrast more. And bring up exposure just a bit up so that it will be just more bright and contrast. However, no, I think contrast is too much. Pull it down. Okay, so all right, let's test this setting. So we have this sequence, and what I want to do now is to export it as uncompressed video, but in 1280 by 720 resolution, because it's the highest you can go with the GIF. If you go higher, you won't fit in 10 megabytes. So sampling, no, format, uncompressed, selected. And I'm not sure if sampling is working with uncompressed, but let's keep it like this. And now Let's hit this video. And make sure, yep, okay. Now let's create a file in renders, call it GIF, a folder, and name the file raw file. So why am I doing this uncompressed video but not the photo sequences that I could actually drop into Photoshop in order to create GIF? Because I want to put this uncompressed video into Video Editor to add nice fade in and fade outs, because I can't find a easier way of doing that. You cannot do this in Marmoset properly, as well as in Photoshop, but a Video Editor is perfect for this purpose. So I'm going to show you how it's going to work. All right, let's check it. Renders, GIF. Yeah, you can see this very heavy file for 6 seconds of video. Yeah, the video is quite jumpy because it's uncompressed basically. So I guess it looks kind of not bad. All right, now I have this program called Vegas Pro, which is quite simple video editing software. So let's drop our file over here and drag it into the timeline, and you want to set the project to match the settings of the video file. Okay, so now scroll in, and now you can see the timeline, which is right there, 1 second. This is 2 seconds, 3, and so on. So what I want to do now, in order to create a fade in and fade out effect in this program, it's really easy. You just hover your cursor over the top corner of the video file, and it will turn this thing. You click and drag in such a way, and now you can see it fades in and fades out. So same on the other side, like this, and fade out. So now what I want to do is go to this 4 seconds marker. Right here you can see 4 seconds, and place a mark here. Click M. So now I have this thing. So I want to fit this thing into the size of from beginning to the mark. And this is pretty easy. You just go and not on the corner, but into the edge of your file. You have this cursor like this, and just drag it in, and it will shorten your file. Now you can see it snaps to here, and let's check how it turns out. Yep. So you can also click here to loop playback, and now click and drag on an empty space, and it will loop all that is within this blue line. So now click play, and you can see how this thing is going to be in the final image. So right now I actually can see one issue. You can see here we have a small gap and much bigger gap over here. So this is not optimal usage of our free space of the screen, so I want to redo that. So let's go and fix this problem. Go to camera, move this guy, key, same thing here, place another key. Yep, now it's straight in the middle. Now let's do it again. F5, export, we can replace this file. And am I recording it or not? Okay, profile, let's not replace it, but call it differently. Can pause it here. So it's almost done. Okay, now let's drop this here, move it down here, do quite the same thing. Trim it from both sides, create fade in, fade out, delete the first one, move it up. Whoops. Now you can see that the problem is fixed. Okay. Okay, so I'm happy with this. Now let's export this as a sequence of images. So click on File, Render As. Let's select the path, renders, GIF, images, create a folder, save. Now what I want to do, select image sequence and select JPEG. All right. So there's nothing much more to that. So it basically will do 24 frames per second because the file is in this format. So now click render. Okay, open the folder. Now we have this sequence of images with nice fade in and fade out. So let's go back to Photoshop, select save, make sure you have those renders scenes saved. Now go to File and go to Scripts, load files into Stack, click Browse, and let's find those. Whoops, nope. GIF images, select all and click OK. Now don't click anything until this thing appears right there. Now click OK. And now again give a program some time for this thing to happen. See, it's loading every image into a new layer. Okay, we're done. Now go to Window and Timeline and click on Create Frame Animation. Yes. Like this. Then go to here, make frames from layers. Okay, now we have every frame as a layer. You can click play. And you can see it plays backwards. I don't know why, but somehow it happens like this. So go to here and select all the frames. And click reverse frames, right? Selecting all the frames were not necessary, but as you selected all of those, go to click on any of those right there. And this is really important part. This is basically the speed of playbacking of your single frame. So click on Other and type in 0.03 as far as I remember. Now click play and you can see it goes somewhat at that speed. Alright. So basically this is it. Now we're ready to render a final GIF. Click stop. Now go to File and Save for Web. Click here. Now you have basically the main part of the GIF creation. So right here you can see the file size, which is 10 megabytes, 0.38. So that 0.38 is off. That's too much. And here is the tab with your settings. So the best way of decreasing the file size is go half of the colors, 128 or 256. So right now it's 1038 megabytes. We're almost we're almost there. So I'll keep the current color settings. So make sure you looping options here, click forever, which means it will repeat each time. So you can click here to play and see how it looks. Yep, this is pretty much it. So still I need to make sure that this is below 10 megabytes. So there is like the ultimate slider for that, which basically says how what's the quality of this. So you can, the more you go with the slider, the crappier would look your image, but it will weight less. So let's turn this a bit more, for example 30. Give it some time to reprocess. Now we have 942. Let's click play and see if we don't have any kind of artifacts. Nope, I think everything looks good. You can see a bit of dots here. I'm not sure if you can see that, but they are there and there, but that's like, generally speaking, it's quite okay. So this is it. 942 is fine. Looping options forever. So now let's click Save and go to our folder, renders, and let's call it opening. Save. Okay, let's go back to the folder, renders. Here you go. Here's your opening. You can open it, and here it goes. So this is your final GIF, which looks really not bad. And I guess this is the end of this tutorial. So I hope you guys learned some new stuff, and thanks for watching.